Hello and welcome. Kherson is freed. In this video I'm going to tell you the details and tell you what this means for the Russian armed forces in Ukraine. What we see here is supposedly a video from yesterday of Ukrainian BM-21 Grad firing at the Russian forces close to Kherson. It's a high probability that this video is fake, or not fake, but this is not from the current conflict. There's a high probability for this, but I cannot confirm it as of now. It's at least a theoretical possibility that this is right. But it's important in one way, as apart from that video, we have no confirmation whatsoever of actual fighting, of actual serious fighting, of actual slaughter of the Ukrainians shelling the bridges, the dams, etc. What we see here. But what we do see, what we have confirmation of, is Ukrainians being liberated after 9 months of occupation. This is from Kherson city. From the center, you can see the Ukrainian flags and the celebrations. And this is the administration building with the Ukrainian flag above it. And here is the video from the first Ukrainian soldiers arriving at that very place. And you can see them lifting them up here, celebrating. We also have here a video of them raising the Ukrainian flag at the more or less the command center, the General Directorate of the National Police. And this here is from Berislav, where it's geo-confirmed the Ukrainians also are already. Right now, we have full confirmation of the Ukrainian forces being in all area that in every piece of the area that was occupied by the Russians west of the Inhulets River, which is here. So the Ukrainians are everywhere here. We have them confirmed in Berislav, and according to the map, they're already at Kosatske and are advancing further in here, so we can expect the Russians to having left completely. What we do have also here is the videos of the Russians blowing up the bridges. Here the bridge, the railroad bridge, was blown up. It's filmed here. We can see it. Oh, that little boy comes. We can see this is the railroad bridge here, and he's good. And it was blown up, and what we see here is that the Antonivsky Bridge was also destroyed. We see one piece falling down here, and we can see that in the background there's also a hole in the bridge, and as far as I understood it, some of the pillars there were destroyed. So any quick fix by putting some, I don't know, made up pieces on top to just bridge that one gap seems extremely unlikely that this is actually possible. The Russians have destroyed the bridges with their retreat, as was to be expected, and let's be honest, as the Ukrainians should have done at the beginning of the war themselves. This is Sasha Kots also reporting here, claiming that there is no more Russian soldiers on the other side of the bridge when he was still there. And here we have a video of Russian soldiers crossing the floating bridge by foot before Kherson was liberated. What we have of now are no videos in any volume of prisoners of war, of fallen soldiers, of captured equipment. I've seen a few more of single tanks, but no big volume. What we can expect is that the Russians actually prepared the withdrawal over the last weeks. This is highly likely. Please don't sabotage me. This is highly likely that they actually withdrew over the last few weeks while they were keeping up the impression of still being there. If they achieve this without Ukrainian cooperation, then it's a feat of a big impression of quality, of a big thing that the Russians have achieved there, as withdrawing from a contact line without the opponent realizing it and without the opponent being able to exploit it is, as I love to say here, as I usually say here, is one of the most difficult tasks for a military to achieve. This is quite possible that they did achieve that. For instance, if the Ukrainians have failed in their recon, that they can leave. We had reports just a couple of days ago that the VDV and the naval infantry were still in this area here. It's quite possible that, for instance, they withdrew the units but left someone there to to use radios with the signatures of those units. So the Ukrainian signal intelligence was still getting the usual radio chatter that they expected from the usual places. This, for instance, would be a regular way to do that. It's highly likely that the Russians withdrew everything that is of significant combat value before and just left behind maybe some Chechens and some of the freshly mobilized men, which were considered expendable, but they have also achieved to withdraw now, which is impressive. It has to be said that the only other other possibility is that the Ukrainians made a deal with the Russians. That's quite possible. It would by far not be the first time in history that something like this is done. And one potential a part of that agreement could have been that the Russians said, okay, we're going to stop the deportations and we are not going to blow up the city or something, anything close to that. Because right now we don't see any shelling of Kherson city. And if we've watched the past, at least in the videos we see here, and I haven't heard about it recently, maybe at this very moment there's some shelling. But in the past, when we saw Mariupol, when we saw Kharkiv, all of those places were mercilessly shelled without any regards to the civilians. And here we see civilian celebrations. At least you would expect the Russians from what we've seen in the war so far, that they would try to spoil the celebrations by just arbitrarily shelling the city, wouldn't you? But we don't see anything of this. So this might be a sign that there was actually some kind of deal done, which would explain the successful withdrawal. But this is just a speculation. I have to emphasize this. I have no proof whatsoever. It just makes kind of sense. Other than that, it would be massive. I said, I can't emphasize it enough how big the success for the Russians would be to achieve such a withdrawal, but it also says something else. It says that Surovikin has been able to implement that withdrawal, and he has been able to do it successfully. Unless it's still possible, but unless in the next 24, 48 hours, we suddenly hear a huge amount of equipment being captured, a huge amount, we suddenly see videos of hundreds, if not thousands of prisoners of war. Unless something like this surfaces, then we can expect them to have successfully evacuated their personnel and everything of their material that they considered worth evacuating. All of this would show that Surovikin has managed to pull off a successful withdrawal. Great leadership, great planning. The soldiers have been disciplined enough to follow the rules and to successfully go through with it. Also a sign of approval, something worth mentioning. And it shows that Surovikin is not just willing to take those harsh decisions, but that he has the full support by the political leadership, meaning Putin. As Putin would never give up Kherson without having gotten the explanation of the military necessity, and Surovikin would have never withdrawn from Kherson without full political backup and support. This is significant in a way, because not only, and I reiterate that now for the 10th time, as Kherson is the gate to Odessa, but it's also the only oblast capital that the Russians captured in this phase of the war. It's the only oblast that they completely captured and held while they didn't have a shred of it at the beginning of the war. And it's one of the oblasts that were freshly annexed, where Putin claimed this is Russia and Russia is not going to leave from it ever again. And now they've withdrawn. This shows Surovikin has the skill to pull off such an evacuation. It shows that he has the political backup, and it shows that Putin has now understood the situation and is willing to act accordingly. All of those three things are not good news for the Ukrainians. That doesn't mean the strategic initiative is going to swing back to the Russians right away. The Russians still have all those problems that we talked about in the past, from morale to equipment to leadership to supply situation, etc. All of this is still remaining, but it shows that Russia at least has the potential to improve its situation. This war is not over yet, even though this is a big win, a strategic win, a win that cannot be overstated. As said, all of this according, obviously, all those good things I say about Surovikin is if we expect the Ukrainians not having made a deal, but there are some signs at least for it, because I have not seen any sign whatsoever that the Ukrainians try to shell the crossings. And the bridges that we see blown up here, when we see the pontoon bridges, I have no sign, no heard nothing that this was done by artillery. Was likely done by the Russians themselves blowing it up. Here, by the way, a big part is missing, so the Ukrainians can't keep using it. The Ukrainians did know that the Russians are withdrawing over that bridge as well. So where were the missiles? They have HIMARS in range, they have Excalibur in range, but they didn't use them. We have no reports of the Ukrainians deliberately and extensively shelling the ferry points. All of this is, for me, an indication that there might have been an agreement to allow the Russians to withdraw in exchange for something else. But we will see. Maybe we'll never find out. Maybe we'll do. But it's, at least for me, it's a fairly strong indication that something might have been going on. That's it for now from my side. I will see you again tomorrow in the next situation report, and at this point I want to thank everyone supporting the channel here. This channel is not possible without the support from viewers like you. If you also want to support the channel, you can do so by the means stated in the description. And if you like this, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos, recommend the channel to your friends and acquaintances. And what do you think? Has Russia a chance to get back the strategic initiative with those troops that were now rescued and that can now be spread around and or concentrated at another point? Do you think Russia has a chance to take back the initiative in this war? These discussions can be highly interesting, and obviously they help with the algorithm, as well as thumbs up help. So if you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button, the like button, to help me grow the channel and help the channel succeed. That's it from now, from my side. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.